Hey, what's going on, guys? Devin here with Backcountry Exposure. I'm out on a morning hike today, just enjoying a beautiful winter day, beautiful place. And today we're going to talk about trip planning, and specifically the different types of like apps and software or like services, websites that we use to plan the routes that we go on for our backpacking trips. And so today's video is sponsored by Art of the Trek. And Art of the Trek is a trip planning website. It is a fantastic tool that you can use to do all sorts of different types of trip planning for the various backpacking trips that you would be going on. And so we're going to talk a lot more about Art of the Trek, but we're going to also talk about CalTopo, Topo Maps Plus, Gaia GPS, and even things like AllTrails in this video today. So planning a route for your backpacking trips is probably one of the most important elements of doing a full trip plan for a backpacking trip. And it's just one of the small pieces that you include in your trip plan. I mean, you've got risk management that you have to worry about. You've got all of the permits and food and gear lists and all of those other things that are really important parts of going out on a backpacking trip. But I feel like a trip plan that doesn't have a well mapped out route defeats the whole purpose of going out on a backpacking trip. So in terms of what I use and what I like to use for planning my routes, I'm using Art of the Trek, I'm using CalTopo, and I'm using Topo Maps Plus as my primary pieces of like software or apps and things to do all of my trip planning of my routes. I also use like Google Earth and those kinds of things as well. But let's talk about those different types of apps and their pros and cons. So let's start with Topo Maps Plus. This is the phone app that I have the most understanding, the most time with over the past few years. And what Topo Maps Plus is a topo map app that over time, it's just gotten better and better and better with all of the different features and things that are capable of it doing. So obviously you've got the ability to do offline maps and download those maps, and you've got different types of layers that you can add into that, whether that's a satellite imagery or the Forest Service maps or the USGS maps, or even the National Geographic maps you can purchase and put onto through the app itself. But you have all of those layers and different things that you can use to plan your routes, which is really convenient. And just like a lot of other different types of phone apps like Gaia GPS or AllTrails, they all have the ability to take a GPX file and import it into the app. So with Topo Maps Plus specifically, a lot of times what I do is I get on caltopo.com and I will map out my exact route that I want to do, place markers and possible water sources. I'll get on Google Earth and I'll look at really detailed specific things of here's a potential campsite. I'll jump into CalTopo, I'll drop a marker, and I'll leave notes and things. And when I save that map in CalTopo and then export it, so I will email that GPX file to myself, pull it up in my phone, and then I import it into Topo Maps Plus. All of that information is now downloaded into my app, which is really convenient. It's really smart, and it's something that to me has been a total game changer. But let's talk about how much more advanced that is in trip planning versus somebody that might be new to backpacking. So I think one of the things that's pretty daunting for somebody that is new to backpacking is how do I know how to map out a route, plan a trip, and know exactly where I can go. And so there are a lot of different like tools out there that allow people that are new, and I think that AllTrails is probably one of the most common apps that people or websites that people use to be able to find trails that either you're unfamiliar with the area and you're looking for something to do in that area, or you're just, hey, I want to go backpacking and I'm new to backpacking. I don't even know what trails I can go do. So you may Google search backpacking in Salt Lake City, Utah, and then you populate different trails that way. And so All Trails, I think, is a great option for kind of that crowdsourced type of opportunity to find different trails. But I want to talk about Art of the Trek and some of the services that they provide, because if you're not familiar with Art of the Trek, you might be surprised at how awesome this website is and the services that they have. Before I get into that though, I do invite you to jump on artofthetrek.com, because that is the best way to find out exactly what they provide and the different services and tools and such. But they're also in like more of like the startup phase, and so it's a great opportunity for you as a user to provide feedback to them and say, hey, I want to see this tool. And then you can send an email or somehow contact them, and they will then be able to consider that, as opposed to being so far deep into the development of it that now they're like, ooh, adding something like that we maybe didn't think about is going to be a lot harder to do. So jump on artofthetrek.com to see the different tools and things that are provided for trip planning and route planning, mapping and such on that website. But one of the things that is kind of like a game changer in my opinion, and I've used this service personally, and it's a custom route plan that you submit on artofthetrek.com. So, for example, I have a trip coming up to Canyonlands National Park, and I wanted to see what this service was like. I wanted to see, okay, I have experience, I know how to backpack, I know what I'm doing, I know how to get on CalTopo and even pull out 7.5 minute Topo Maps, paper maps, and plan routes. Like, I know how to do that, and I understand it. But if you're new to backpacking, you may not understand all of that. So having a service like this is really important. So I wanted to see how well it works. So I got on and did the custom route plan option that is totally free, by the way, and went through, filled out the form. It's a bunch of questions of like, what area are you looking at? How many days? How many miles? Do you want us to secure permits for you? Just kind of all of those different kinds of things. And I filled out the form, and then it was, 3 or 4 days of time between when I submitted the form to them and I got an email reply from them that had a PDF of all of this incredible information about this particular route that I have planned in Canyonlands National Park. It was, here are like options to how many days you can go, and here are your total amount of miles, information on the area, where you're going to start, where you need to obtain your permit, how you get backcountry campsites and water sources, and just kind of like all of the fine detail things that just kind of blew my mind at how detailed and awesome it was. And to be quite honest, I was fairly skeptical of somebody remotely, not even around where I live, submitting information to me about something that I do have personal experience with. And so it was kind of like a test for me to see, okay, do these people actually know what they're talking about? And I can say that, you see it here on the screen, this is a lot of really good information, and this is way more detailed than I think a lot of blogs provide or YouTube videos, and it's an amazing tool that I suggest you take some time to check out. So I guess now is, what's the point of all of this? How do I take the information here, Devin, that you're telling me and actually apply it and use it? And what I would say is, depending on what type of experience level you are, use the different tools, and I'm going to link everything down in the description for you to kind of peruse and just see what makes the most sense for you. But in terms of trip planning, not one specific app or software or service is going to be the end-all be-all of being able to plan a trip. Like I said, I could use Topo Maps Plus, which is my absolute preference for going out into the backcountry. I love the way that the interface works. Comparing that to Gaia GPS, which I paid for their pro version for the last year, and comparing the two apples to apples, I way more prefer the Topo Maps Plus app over the Gaia GPS. And I've got another friend that eventually came to that conclusion himself as well. But the only caveat is I don't think that Topo Maps Plus is available on Android or like Google Play. So you're an iPhone only service with Topo Maps Plus, where Gaia you can use on pretty much any service or tablet or phone. And so there is that pro and con there. But the point I'm making is I use different tools to accomplish different things. So I get on artofthetrek.com and I look at the existing routes that they have. They have all of the various like water sources available. They've got campsites. They've got things that help somebody that doesn't know a lot about a particular area to know more about how to plan a trip for that area. And it makes the tool is really easy to use. You're getting to use different tools to plan an awesome backpacking trip into a beautiful area. And it gives you peace of mind to know that the route that I've planned using this tool helps me know how to navigate better so that I can have a successful and safe backpacking trip into whatever destination it is. So Topo Maps Plus, very awesome app and definitely recommend it. Art of the Trek as a website that has a mobile app coming to it hopefully very soon is another amazing tool that just works in a slightly different way. CalTopo, really great tool as well, and has its limitations on the mobile side of things. That's why it's great to be able to use a mobile app in conjunction to bring GPX files together and all that information. Gaia GPS, a lot of people love that as well. So I would obviously recommend that because I've used it. It's just not as user-friendly for me. And then things like AllTrails, or there's so many other different types of mapping apps out there. But those are what I use and what I prefer have been just really great for me. But again, thanks for watching. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. And I hope you have an awesome day. We'll catch you on the next video.